शुभं करोति कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदा शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योति नमोऽस्तु ते।
Good evening, one and all present over here today. I welcome on behalf of CRDE, I welcome each one of you to the 45th series of our Tuesday webinar. I especially welcome Dr. Aditya Save, today's speaker. He is also one of our trustees to today's webinar. CRDE is mainly planned or aimed to prepare as well as collect the resources from the resourceful people and give it back to the society, to the principals, to the teachers, which in turn gives back to the students. We have been doing many programs, of course, Tuesday webinars right from beginning, then teacher training programs, teacher development programs. This year, we have started with the teacher development program, TDP. We have finished with the 4th one. Now, after Diwali, we'll be doing the 5th one also. Up to 10 series, we will be doing the TDP. I request all of you to just spread this news to all the teachers. And that will be, this TDP program will be an offline program, not online program. So, without much time, I request Uma ma'am to continue today's proceedings. Uma ma'am, please.
Sorry to interrupt in between, Uma ma'am, but before you start, I request each and everyone, other than the speakers who are speaking, other than the coordinator, others, please mute yourselves, because there is a lot of disturbance in the background, and that can be seen in the recording also later on. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Suresh sir. Thank you, Deepa ma'am. A very good evening to one and all present here. On behalf of Center of Resource Development for Educators, I welcome you all to our 45th session of Tuesday webinars. Before we begin with our session, a brief about CRDE. Center of Resource Development for Educators is an initiative of educators, Dr. Suresh Nair and Mrs. Deepa Desai. Dr. Suresh Nair, President of CRDE, a state teacher awardee, joined Vivek Vidyalaya and Junior College in 2006 after serving for 𝐀𝐫𝐭𝐢𝐟𝐢𝐜𝐢𝐿 for about 18 years. His visionary endeavor in the field of education paved the way to fetch him an array of accolades. He is a co-author of physics textbooks for junior colleges and MHT CET for engineering entrance examination. Mrs. Deepa Desai, Secretary of CRDE. Mrs. Deepa Desai has been in the field of education for more than 37 years and is a recipient of many awards for her work. Former principal of Arya Vidya Mandir, Juhu, an ICSE board, the founder principal of Mahapragya Public School, Kalba Devi, a CBSE school in South Mumbai, and former head of IES Manik Vidya Mandir. She is a woman of many talents. Her rich experience as an educationist also made her an innovative and knowledgeable trainer for the CBSE and Sri Kelwani Mandal's group of schools in Shirpur, Dhule. Center of Resource Development for Educators is a platform where teachers and educators are manured to excel and mentor the student community through local and international mentorship. CRDE offers opportunity to experiment and implement ideas, innovations, and collaboration to achieve performance and continuous professional excellence. CRDE is where confluence of like-minded individuals share and imbibe knowledge, experience through interaction, deliberation, and international exposure. As Dr. Suresh Nair has already mentioned, today we have indeed a very special person before us who will be presenting. Dr. Aditya Save, a trustee of CRDE. Dr. Aditya Save is an advisor, coach, mentor, friend, and co-founder of many organizations, thus playing different roles. He has over 25 years of experience in the corporate field across Asia, US, UK, and the Middle East, and with the Chief Executive Officer role mandates. As a part of his corporate career, Dr. Aditya Save has domain expertise across business strategy and implementation, marketing and GTMs, consumer propositions and media, growth hacking, digital and design thinking. He has invested in a diverse portfolio of startups and has been an active investor in public markets for almost 2 decades. Dr. Aditya Save has a doctorate degree in consumer psychology and is globally certified as an executive coach. Dr. Aditya Save has been teaching as a guest faculty in many premier business schools in India and works with edtech companies and how to make education more effective for Indian kids. Dr. Aditya Save, as a trustee of CRDE, advises and shapes CRDE's industry interactions, helping build more sustainable program that is relevant to business and industries. He also guides CRDE on educator-centric content priorities as well as technology interfaces. Besides being a trustee at CRDE, Dr. Aditya Save also serves as a board advisor to AAA USA. Without any further delay, let me welcome Dr. Aditya Save this evening to present on artificial intelligence for educators, which I'm sure everybody would like to learn, and we'll have a lot of key takeaways today. Over to you, sir, Dr. Aditya Save.
Thank you, ma'am. It's been
Most
quite some
welcome.
time. It's been quite some time since somebody called it artificial intelligence. Everybody's just got down to this habit of saying AI. It felt very strange to hear it after a long time. Thank you everyone for joining in. When we were in school and if you landed up in a class late, you had to stand outside the class. So I've always had this assumption that teachers reach sessions on time and students come late. So it's really reassuring to see that some teachers have actually come to this class late. And instead of 5 o'clock, they've come at 5:10. But since we are in a virtual classroom, that's one of the changes that we're going to make, which is that the focus is going to be on learning rather than on any kind of punishment. Since you've actually given your own time today, I would request you to take like 2 minutes before I actually get started and just write down whatever thoughts, whatever questions, whatever doubts you might have, something that you want to talk about. I have maybe about 20 slides to share with you. So I'm not going to take too long. In fact, if there are more questions, I can take even lesser time. The presentation is going to be available to you. I'll also share some other resources with you. So what I'm talking about might be of less importance. What you want to know might be of more importance. So I would really request you, if you can jot down your thoughts before I begin. And frankly, even when I'm talking, if you want to stop me, interrupt me, and ask me something specific, that would be great. Yeah. Okay. Great. So with that, Uma ma'am was very gracious and she actually introduced me. I try to find new ways to introduce myself, and this is how I'm trying to do it today. I'm trying to use numbers more than anything else. So I have obviously 10 plus 2. The first line is my education. So it's 10 years, then 2 years of undergrad, 2 years of 12th standard, then 4 years of undergrad, 2 years of MBA, and 5.5 years to do my doctorate. I've spent about 18 years now teaching. I'm a visiting faculty off and on. I wish at some point of time I had the patience and the time to be able to do this full time. but I think I really benefit from being able to crisscross both those worlds. And most of my teaching experience is with postgrad students, people who have already had about 15 years of educational experience, students who have 15 years plus of educational experience. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because I'm very used to talking to people who already have their own set ways of learning, their own set ways of teaching, their own way of figuring out what works for them. I study better at night. I study better, visually, etc., etc. So I'm very used to talking to grown-ups who are still learning, right? So 25 plus obviously is like Uma mentioned, the number of years of WorkX. I've worked on 4 continents across 21 countries. As a consultant, I've now worked across 12 sectors, I think more now, 12 industries. And I have 15 different nationalities where I have my own coaches, people whom I have coached. The last one is the 3+ is the amount of hours I spend a day using AI tools daily, 3 hours plus. And that 50 minus, which is the only minus number, is my age bracket. So I'm not yet 50. So the way I think about it is that I'm trying to prepare for the next 50 years of my life, saying if I have to be relevant, if I have to stay with the times, what are the things that I need to keep doing to myself other than whatever education I had? How does my experience teach me? How do I learn from myself? Constantly reminding myself that I'm not as young as I used to be, but I'm not as old as I will be, right? So that's the mandate that I have for myself. So starting with the topic, I thought I'll start from a point where I give you a slight disclaimer. AI is a universe, right? Artificial intelligence is a universe. Work on AI has been happening since the mid 1950s. So it's almost 50 years of AI development. What you perhaps hear in the news is the last 5 years. And obviously, in an hour today, we're not going to cover everything that has happened, right? So in many ways, if this is the galaxy, if this is the universe, we are somewhere here in this dark spot, and that's all I'll be able to cover, right? Or maybe it is this dark spot. I don't even know which part of the galaxy will sort of guide it towards, right? So having said that, whenever I come across a situation where I feel like, oh, this is too vast, this is too much for me to start with, I had a lot of good teachers, and most of them taught me to go back to first principles, right? So I go back to first principles, and since I'm talking to a lot of educators today, I thought this is perhaps one place that we could start, right? Which is, what is the role of education, right? So traditionally, we call school and college learning as education, and that education for most people, for most common folk, is the means to a job, right? And job is equal to salary, and salary is equal to security, right? This is how I grew up, my generation grew up, maybe a generation before me grew up. Most Indian parents, even today, associate education with security of the future, right? May or may not be just job security, but security with the future. And if you look at what has happened just in this calendar year, the first 6 months, 7 months of the year, the way countries have gone hammer and tongs at each other, the way tariffs have worked, the way visas have worked, the way job losses have worked, a lot of this has started getting dented. This logic of, if you can finish your education well, you will have security, is something that has started affecting the parents of kids who are today in school, right? And so there are lots of questions globally about this. In many ways, just like the pandemic was probably the first time I saw the entire world having the same problem together, right? Which is that everybody had to stay home, nobody had a clue, nobody had answers for about a year and a half. Similarly, where jobs and AI is concerned, where future security and AI is concerned, nobody around the world has answers. Everybody tries to give their own answer, right? So therefore, I thought maybe this is something that we need to look at it from a slightly different lens. And maybe this lens is something that you have already used in your schools to talk to other teachers, to talk to staff, to talk to maybe parents. But the way I see it is that in addition to education, you need skill and you need intelligence, right? Again, traditionally, intelligence is supposed to be given. I think intelligence develops over time. Intelligence improves over time. It comes with skill. It comes with practice. And so being educated in the traditional sense includes being able to have skills which are relevant today and which you can intelligently use today. And to me, that is perhaps a better source of security and prosperity. Um, you still don't know what future security will be like, but maybe security and some amount of prosperity is linked to this ability to have education plus skill plus intelligence. And that's the lens through which I'm going to talk to you about AI today, because it is something that is affecting almost every aspect of our lives, right? So where education is concerned, like I said, almost everybody has had this notion that, look, we don't seem to be doing enough. We need to move with the times. There are lots and lots and lots of great thinkers in this domain who have said we need to, sort of relook at our education system, relook at the way we teach, relook at the way kids learn. And the government took note of this and the government came up with the NEP. And then there's been a yearly sort of renovated version of the NEP. And I'm just going to take one slide to talk about the top 7 or 8 things that the 2024 NEP policy, the National Education Policy, actually included. And I'll use that in my talk today. So it said essentially the vision is that India should be a global knowledge superpower, right? So knowledge is in many ways connected directly here with education, right? I don't know if that is true, but it is being connected. That is, the government is thinking of the vision as knowledge superpower, and therefore stressing on the education of Indians overall, right? So the schooling framework was changed, which is from the 10+2 system, we've gone to a 5+3+3+4 system, which is more aligned to global norms. There are 4 parts, there are 4 stages. Flexibility across subjects. My son was very angry with the fact that he had to go through the old system because he wanted to learn computer science with psychology, and they wouldn't let him do that. And now he's realizing that younger kids will be able to do it. Integrated vocational training and coding for students. Very interesting. I was very, very interested to see the amount of emphasis on math, on coding, on actual hands-on training that has been lent here. A lot of conversation about e-content. In fact, what I've done is when I put this slide down, I thought it didn't do justice to the focus that the NEP is talking about, right? So I have redone the slide slightly to highlight the words that I think are important. So it's no longer about schooling, it is about creating a framework, right? And as we all know, frameworks hold things together, right? So the name of the school might change, but the educational framework needs to remain the same. The names are very interesting. Preparatory and middle stages. A lot of so students sort of in secondary school are preparatory and middle stages. A lot of focus on flexibility across disciplines. Very, very important that Indians learn multidisciplinary thinking. That is probably one thing that has been missed out on previous generations. I think it was done very, very well maybe 40, 50 years ago when you used to go to a school, learn more traditional languages, math, etc. And you would come home and you would either learn your dad's craft or you would learn, an art form like music, and you would learn to play, right? And that was multidisciplinary thinking because your brain developed far better then. I think we've become very, very unidirectional right now, and maybe that this flexibility is a good thing. Including vocational training and internships. I can't even imagine what a 7th standard student doing internship would be like, right? I'm really bad. I'm really old. And I spent some time this year with my nephew who's 14. And I tried to sort of push him, talk to him about how internships would work at his age, and frankly, I got to learn a lot. Coding for students, I think this is something that we must teach, must encourage, whether we do it in schools, whether we do it outside schools. It's not about coding for computers. It is about being able to have a language, right? So all of us can speak English, and that has made a big difference as Indians on the global stage. We've always had an advantage of the fact that English is a language that we can think in, right? Other than our own mother tongues. I think coding is the language for the future because coding is essential for talking to computers. Today, computers are talking your language, but if you want to work better with a computer, you need to speak the language. So maybe from a geopolitical future perspective, we need to learn Mandarin in addition to English. But from a personal, like I said, security and prosperity perspective, we need to learn coding. And this is not just for students. I think this is true for everybody. One of the benefits that I have personally felt from coding is that it forces you to be left brain. It forces you to think logically. It forces you to leave your intelligence aside and actually step by step by step by step, one action at a time, craft out what comes before what. And that I think is a very good cognitive skill to have even beyond the ages of 50. So I think coding is something not just for students, it should be mandatory for everybody in India, right? E-content has been spoken about. Technology in education. I was talking to some teachers last year as part of a CRDE reach out, and a lot of teachers express their doubt about how technology can coexist and what their role will be in this sort of future, right? I'm not meeting any of you in person. I'm meeting all of you on this technological medium, right? So technology is a real part of our lives, our everyday lives. All of you are used to watching TV. Nobody comes to your house and performs. You operate your television with a remote, which maybe 30 years ago didn't exist in your hand. All of you work with this today. Each one of you knows how to use WhatsApp. WhatsApp didn't exist till 15 years ago, right? So we are very conversant with technology that we need. We sort of make the effort to learn the technology that we need. So my way of looking at this is, if you try to tell yourself that this is something new and doesn't work for me, you'll stay aside. But if you say, I need to learn this because it's important for me, it just makes that much more, it becomes that much easier to pursue that as a possibility. And lastly, this mathematical and computational thinking. Like I said, computational thinking to me is this ability to think in terms of what the next step would be, and then what is the next step after that, next step after that, next step after that, rather than making a big statement saying, oh, we need to do so and so, right? So like I told you, I wanted you guys to also write down your questions. So I put down some questions that I thought a lot of you might have, and please feel free to add to this, correct me if I'm wrong about this. But I thought some of the questions would be, what are the tools available? Are they free to use? How do I access them? What do I use which one for? And how do I find new ones, right? And I've put two images, if you notice on the screen. Essentially, it's one image, which I just changed very slightly using AI, right? A lot of the presentation that I've made has been using AI, and you'll see it in different things. So some of these questions I'm going to answer in the following slides. If there are any other questions, please do let me know. I'm more than happy to sort of cut my talk short and answer questions. So in terms of tools, the most obvious ones, at least three of these you have definitely heard of, which is ChatGPT, Gemini, and Meta, right? These are three that are definitely known to everybody. Perplexity is a company which has an Indian founder. I don't think he still doesn't have a green card, so he's still on an H-1B visa in the US. But it's a company that is sort of challenging Google in terms of how search is used, how you search for something and how you find it, which is something very basic that all of us do, right? So some of these are well known, and even if you just work with these 1 hour every day, I think as a starting point, that's a great thing to do, right? You use it like an assistant of yours. But I'm going to try and go beyond these, and I'm going to tell you specific use cases for different tools, right? So the first tool that I want to talk about is this tool called 𝐾𝐲𝐿. By the way, these are tools that I've picked up only from an educator's point of view, and therefore, if you see my slide, you will only find stuff related to education, right? So 𝐾𝐲𝐿 comes from Khan Academy. Khan Academy is this global platform that helps young students clear their doubts, figure out. It's a beautiful platform. I mean, sometimes I have gone there to clear up basics of, let's say, integrals or differentials, right? So 𝐾𝐲𝐿 is a platform that allows teachers to create a curriculum planner, to create a lesson planner, to figure out how to teach a concept, to figure out what kind of examples should we give, to figure out to get slides ready for, let's say, a presentation that you want to make day after tomorrow. Okay, and 𝐾𝐲𝐿 is now available in English for teachers in about 40 countries. Right, it comes from a not-for-profit company, and therefore there is, I think, with 𝐾𝐲𝐿 there is a $4 cost or something like that. But most of the time, the resources are 100% free. Right, so 𝐾𝐲𝐿 is a great tool. So what can it do? If you look at this slide, it can help a teacher plan a lesson. It can figure out the complexity of a given test. So you can figure out tests as well as how to do that. It can help with chunking. How do you help your students prepare? It can figure out which learning objectives are more important. It can come up with questions that you can ask about a certain topic, a certain lesson. It can make it relevant. It can tell you how to make it relevant to today's situation for those kids, and give you a clear sense of direction of how to use, how to go about, how to prepare for this generation, which perhaps has a different starting point from most of us, right? So those are the tools that 𝐾𝐲𝐿𝐢𝐜 has. The second tool is called 𝐀𝐫𝐿. Essentially, so the screenshot I've come up with is a science classroom, but essentially it is all subjects and all kinds of classrooms. So so the idea is that you want to create something that students can enjoy, right? So if you see on the right hand side here, just like you've got a prompt here, you can say, this is what I want to teach. How do I teach it? How do I make it interesting for students? And it will give you an interactive lesson in 30 seconds, right? That's what 𝐀𝐫𝐿 does. Okay. The third one is called 𝐾𝐫𝐿bot. I don't know how many of you have moved to email as a primary way of communication, but for a lot of students, for a lot of teachers, for a lot of parents today, homework is done on email. A lot of times students submit something which has not even been done by the student. It is usually done by the parent, right? And that, while that used to happen with craft projects earlier, that now happens with all kinds of papers and submissions. So 𝐾𝐫𝐿bot is a tool that helps you understand who has written this. Has a person written this, or have they used AI, right? So it's an AI that can find out if your stuff has been written by an AI, okay? And all you have to do is you have to just upload the PDF, and it can detect that very easily. Plus, it can give you better ideas. It can give you better writing ideas. So you don't have to keep going back month after month, year after year to the same essay ideas. You can come up with stuff which is more relevant, more topical. You can push students to think harder about some nuances, stuff like that, right? The fourth tool is called 𝐷IFIT. Okay, so what 𝐷IFIT does is it is teacher focused, student centric resources for teachers in any subject you want, right? So you just put down what language, which grade, and what curriculum you want to align it to. It will tell you what books exist. It will tell you what reference material exists. And if you see on the left hand side, I've just shown you one example. It will actually have ready-made resources. So these, if you see these, it will have ready-made resources if you want to teach a certain topic. So for example, rural versus urban living, it will actually have topics ready for you to be able to teach it, right? That's what 𝐷IFIT does. Okay. The fifth one is so there's this platform called Canva, which is usually used by people for making creatives. You can make everything from the JPEGs that you get for Dussehra and Aaj Ka Din yellow hai and tomorrow is orange. All those JPEGs that you get can all be made on Canva. But Canva has a separate vertical which is for education, and most of Canva for education is free, right? So it is focused on teachers, and it tells you as a teacher crazy amount of resources that you can use on Canva, right? You can customize it to every class you go, and it takes less than 3 minutes to do, right? So these are 5 tools. One of the things I want to point out is all these tools are available to everybody around the world. They are available to all teachers. They are available to all students. They are available to all parents. They are available to people like me who crisscross the professional and educational world. They are available to everybody. So the way I look at it is the resources exist. It just depends on who gets to them and how they use them, or how much they use them, right? So if it's I'm sure that when you were in school, you came across some good teachers and some bad teachers, right? Today, there is no excuse for a student to say, oh, my teacher was bad. That is why I don't know the subject, right? So if you have a bad teacher who can't teach that subject, go home, open either tool for Canva, open 𝐀𝐫𝐿, open 𝐾𝐲𝐿, and learn that, right? My son is in engineering now, and one of the things that happened in the first month of college was that their professors asked them, which topics are you not comfortable with, right? Knowing fully well that some of that would have been taught in 9th standard, 10th standard, 11th standard. So they said, which topics are you not comfortable with? We are giving you 1 month. Go brush up on that topic and come back. They didn't say we will teach you. They said, go, first of all, ask yourself which are the topics that you're not comfortable with, right? So there can be something in physics, there can be something in calculus. Go figure out whatever you're not comfortable with. Figure out how to learn it without using a teacher reference. Learn it online and come back, and then we'll proceed with actual engineering studies, right? So that's how higher education is more and more pushing students to go figure out for themselves how to learn. And that, I think, is a great way that school teachers and principals can play a role where they help students to learn better, right? Not just teach them in class. So I just gave an example of these 5 tools, but like I said in the beginning, this is a massive, massive universe. There are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of tools, new tools which come into the market. Plus every existing thing that you know about will say we now have AI. So we are on Zoom. Zoom will say I have AI. I have a phone. My phone will say I am AI. Right. So everybody incorporates AI in addition to new companies coming and making an offering. So I don't think there's any need for any of us to feel that, oh, if I don't know what is happening for a month, I'll lag behind. I don't think that's a great way to think about it. I think the thing to do is to say, here's what I actually want to achieve. What can help me achieve it, right? And therefore, can I use an AI tool? And for that, it's a lot easier, because if you just look at Google as a universe, I'm assuming most of you have Android phones, most of you use Google on a regular basis, most of you would have the Gmail ID. If you just say gemini.google.com, right? Gemini.google.com, open the site, bookmark the site, keep it with you at all points of time. It gives you one prompt like the Google search prompt, but in that space, you can write anything you want. I can give you, like those 2 teachers that I showed you earlier, thinking about AI, they're created by Gemini, right? If you have time today, I can give you a live demo of how fast something can be done. So within Google, there is something called, if you can see my cursor, there's something called Notebook LM, okay? Which is like saying, you know, when I was a kid, my school bag used to have a lot of books, right? Books used to be arranged by subject, right? So every subject had a textbook and a notebook, okay? So Notebook LM is exactly the same concept, but online, which is you take any notebook, any information, any website, any video, any PDF that you want to understand better, upload it onto Notebook LM, and it will give you anything you want. So it will read through, and you can ask it questions saying, okay, explain this to me, explain this concept to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Okay, and it'll do that. Or it'll say, okay, here's a 100-page report. Give me a 10-line summary of this report. You can try this with the NEP 2024. Actually, that's how I got the summary. You can actually put the entire report and say, hey, give me a summary of this. You can even create, if you don't want to do reading too much, you can upload that document and say, make me listen to it like 2 people are talking. And it will automatically create a conversation between 2 people on the site itself, right? If you come across a very good, I have this habit of attending classes at Yale and Harvard online. If you know, those classes are usually 2 hours, 2.5 hours video, right? So I just take the entire video URL, I put it into Notebook LM, and I say, give me a 10-minute talk on this, and it will just talk like the professor to me, give me a gist of in 10 minutes of that entire lecture, right? So that's just one tool, Notebook LM, right? Then there's this tool called Nano Banana, which is essentially, I don't know why they call it that, but essentially it is for image creation. I can do any kind of image creation. I'll give you an example also in a little while, right? Away from this, Gemini itself is really good. So there's Gemini for education. If you just type Gemini for education, you'll see how much it offers for teachers and for principals. Google makes a lot of effort. There's actually Google Classroom. So some of you who have access to Google Classroom would know about it already. There is something called Napkin AI, okay? NAPKIN, Napkin AI, which isn't, what it does is, if you type any, let's say you say, oh, I want to give you guys, there are 4 ways you can cross the road, right? Open eyes, close eyes, etc., etc. You give 4 points. It will create visuals of those 4 points so that you don't have to. So you can actually give students visual reference of whatever you're talking about. So for example, if you see this visual is created by Napkin AI. It takes like 5 seconds to create it. this funnel is created. All of these are created by Napkin AI. It is fantastic. If you just go and put some random 4 or 5 things in it, it will create different shapes that you can use for visualization. Plus, like I said, since you use Google, every part of Google that you already use already has inbuilt AI. So you can do different things with it. You can ask, so for example, in some cases, you can ask if there is like 15 emails back to back, you can say, hey, give me a summary of this. Okay, give me the actual summary of all these 15 emails people have written back and forth. The same thing with Drive, the same thing with Google Meet, etc., etc. It's just endless in terms of what can happen. Also, whatever exists this month, next month you can expect 20-30% more to exist, right? So that's the pace at which this goes. So a lot of this is movement in progress. And like I said, every month there is something new. So don't try to understand a tool completely. Use the tool when you want, right? Because otherwise that tool is going to become obsolete. Something else will, don't say, oh, this tool is fantastic, because 2 months later, somebody else will do that same thing much more easily, right? I'll give you my example. I was trying to make a website for myself, and I was trying to think of what the homepage should be, what this should be, what that should be, how many pages should it have, how do I put a picture on the left, picture on the right, etc. I sat with my 14-year-old nephew. In 45 minutes, we had a site ready, because he just used prompts and an AI tool to be able to create the website, right? That was in first week of July. We took 45 minutes. I tried that this morning. It took me 8 minutes. So same process. And 45 minutes was awesome from my point of view, because I'd never been able to do it. That is now 8 minutes. So in 3 months, the tools have also managed to get it faster, right? So that's the pace of growth that happens. And if you ever have to wonder, how do I find out if there is an AI for that? There is actually a website called thereisanaIforthat.com, right? So all you have to do is you just have to go in and say, hey, is there an AI that helps me count money? And it will tell you if there are AI tools for that. Is there an AI that helps me record myself in 5 languages? It will tell you if there's a tool for that. So you can just say there is an AI for that.com, and it will give you an AI. So you don't need to remember any of these things anymore, right? So memory, the role of memory in education is almost receding. So if all of this exists, then what is it that we can do? How do we make the most of this? So I'm just going back to first principles. So first of all, a reality check, right? Like I said, resources exist. They are available to all. And the teacher always was the knowledge center. And that is what, that is why we have so much respect. As a culture, we have so much respect for teachers, because teacher knew, right? If the teacher said yes, then that's a yes, right? I had a tough time when my son was in school, because he would just not listen to what we would say. We had to go to his school and tell his teacher to say the same thing, right? So the respect for teachers is embedded in teachers being the knowledge center, right? And that is why if you're lagging behind, then you tend to become irrelevant, right? To be able to improve your relevance, to be able to increase relevance, learning plays a huge role. If you keep learning, the more I know about today's world, the more I'm in touch with today's world, that actually is what keeps me relevant, right? And that's the reason why we need to focus on AI very, very selfishly from a relevance lens. Okay, how to remain relevant, right? So how do I remain relevant as a teacher? I can remain relevant if I am the learning architect. There will always be tools that my students can use, but I am the one who can put them into context. I am the one who can show them how to stack them up. The job of a contractor versus an architect, right? So stress test is done by the architect. Visualization is done by the architect. So I have the ability, because of my past experience as a teacher, to be able to become my students' learning architect. And to me, that's the role that a teacher should ideally play, right? So how do you, so I've just thought of 7 ways of increasing relevance. There are obviously many more in this, right? So number 1, encourage critical thinking. Unfortunately, most of us now live in households where news channels, tell you what you should be thinking, right? We live in households where even the daily soap that we watch on TV already paints people in black and white. So the starting point for everybody is you have to take a side, and then that side can't be wrong, right? Whereas critical thinking is something that we need to cultivate among students, right? So maybe encouraging students to have critical thinking is something that a teacher can play a bigger role in. How to encourage them using the lesson plan that you have is again something that a AI tool can help you with, right? The other thing I find amongst Indians specifically, there is there's no appreciation for goal setting. We don't plan goals properly. Most of us typically drift. There's a timetable there for school, there is a timetable for exams, there is a timetable, there is a period for sports, there is a section put away as holidays. We don't have goals. We don't have goals for what will you achieve this month, what will you achieve this quarter, what will you achieve this year, right? So maybe students should be encouraged to set their own goals, reflect on those goals from time to time to see how they are doing, right? And that is something that a teacher can do, or teachers can do at scale for a 60 student class using an AI tool, right? And that's the reason why I'm bringing these things up, because this is something you have to do for each and every person separately for that person's journey, right? The third thing is, after COVID, you've seen most of us have developed a better relationship with our phones and our laptops than with people, right? So collaboration, teaching students collaboration, teaching students projectization. Projectization has three parts. There has to be an objective, there has to be tasks, you have to break things down into tasks, and there has to be a deadline, right? Indians, first of all, don't understand time very well. Most Indians think of time as stretchable. But when you teach someone projectization, essentially you're making them more and more aware of how timelines matter, how deadlines matter. And that is what other people appreciate about you, right? So at a younger age, a teacher can play a great role in helping students collaborate, but also helping students break things down and create projects out of them, right? Empathy and creativity, I think in this sense, teachers have always played a disproportionately large role where students are concerned. Maybe there is some role now for the usage of technology in building this empathy, which means you can actually help your student develop creativity without being creative. Like when I was in school, the definition of creative students was people who could draw well, right? I was pathetic at drawing. Luckily, I had a set of teachers and family members who taught me that creativity was slightly bigger than just that. Otherwise, I would never have become a marketeer, right? So how to express creativity, how to find your creativity. A lot of this is possible in small projects that students do. And a teacher does not have to spend more time now to be able to create that customization for students. I think that's the key benefit that AI has brought, right? Which is far more customization. It is not one size fits all. It's not the same thing that I taught last month, I can teach again, right? And therefore, be growth mentor through actions. Like I said, I'm not yet 50, and I'm assuming that I'm going to survive another 50 years, which means everything that I've seen so far is a smaller part of my life. I need to prepare for what's coming ahead, right? And therefore, I need to grow. Therefore, I need to take actions. And if I take actions, my kids will learn just by looking at me, just by watching me. And therefore, my students will learn just by me. A lot of times when I work with either students or young interns or young people who are young graduates who work with me, a lot of times they tend to get stuck on a problem without ever thinking of how many ways you can solve the problem, right? And like at least once a week, I get this reaction saying, "Sir, आपने ये कैसे सोचा?" And my point is, मैंने सोचा नहीं. I just went online and I Googled it. Something came up. Worst case, I wasted 30 seconds. But I don't have to be thinking of everything. I can use my fingers on a laptop keyboard to be able to think better, right? And that is, I think, the benefit that most of us have today, where the tools available for teachers and available for free at our fingertips are far more than what they were for a previous generation of teachers, right? And the last one, I say this to everybody at every age, so don't mind it. Stay curious. right? If you're not curious, you're dead. So just stay curious. Just say, how does this work? How does this work? How does this work? How does that happen? How does this happen? And it doesn't, and I don't have a problem at all asking a person who's younger than me to explain something to me, to show something to me, right? And one of the things that is happening now is that students are realizing that there aren't class toppers and laggards, right? Class topper means somebody who's academically good. I am good at something else, right? Earlier there used to be two classifications, right? There was somebody who's good at studies, somebody good at sports, and then the rest of the class in between. Those guys, rest of the class in between, have now figured out there are 5 things I can do. I'm seeing this with batches, school batches, which are now moving to college. They suddenly discover parts of themselves that they didn't know, and they have surprised themselves that, oh, I was also good at this. I didn't realize it, right? So staying curious is true for students as well as teachers, right? And like I said, there are multiple simple ways of getting started. The simplest way I keep telling everybody is just Google everything. Just go to Gemini and say, I am right now bored. I don't know how to teach tomorrow's class. Give me some ideas, right? I actually started this presentation the same way. I said, I have to talk to a group of teachers and principals. I don't know what to say. And it gave me some ideas which were bad, but I picked on something, created something, etc., etc., etc. Right? So the thing to take away perhaps is, one, the fact that there are crazy number of tools, just too many tools. You'll never know all the tools. I will never know all the tools, but there's a tool for everything. Tools exist. It's like your kitchen has got more utensils than you need for one day's cooking, right? That's always going to be true. It depends on what you use, right? And therefore, if you look at it, it's an endless pursuit, but an endless pursuit which looks very different unless you look at it closely, right? That's my email ID. Obviously, there are no spaces. I just kept it that way so it's readable. That's my email ID. And the reason I put my email ID is because I'm also going to share a document that that any one of you who wants can ask for it. Okay. So I'm more than happy to help in whatever way. I'll happily answer any questions. I thought I'll come back to these two pictures and this background, just as a reminder that the AI universe is much bigger than we know. We don't need to know the whole of it. We just need to look at what is important for us. If we can stay curious and if we can focus on our own reskilling, our own relevance, it works for us, right? And just to show you how powerful it is, you can see 2 pictures on the screen. These are not taken by me. I don't own this jacket. I don't own this shirt. I don't own this shirt. I don't own this jacket. The face is mine. Everything else is generated by AI. Right? And it took me 6 minutes to do this. Yeah. So that's where we are today. This is my email ID. Somebody was asking. So you can. So what I've done is I have made a Google Sheet. And I'll try and show it to you also today, which essentially has a lot of starting points in terms of what you can do with different tools. So if any of you wants it, just drop an email to me and I'll share the Google Sheet with you. Yeah, but that's what I had to say. I'm happy to take questions.
Sir, good evening, sir. I'm Sadhna here.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, what I want to ask you, AI is good. Okay, I understand, I accept. But don't you think sometimes it take away your creativity, that you are totally dependent on AI, and says your own creativity lags behind somewhere?
Sure. How much of creativity do you have?
I have some,
How much?
maybe 80%.
Okay. And are you happy with the usage of that 80%?
Yeah, I use.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. But what I am saying actually, I take help.
Would you like to be
AI.
81?
I can get 81 with my AI help. That I understand.
So, sorry, I'm just trying to finish this point.
Yeah, please.
My point is that we get so worried about oh, if I do this, मेरा धर्म भ्रष्ट हो जाएगा.
Mm-hmm.
That we don't do any of it.
Yeah.
My suggestion is एक बार करके देखो.
हाँ.
If you lose your intelligence, if you feel कि ये तो बहुत गलत हो गया मेरे साथ, it's okay. You've lived long enough to be able to come back to where you were.
No, sir, I use AI sometimes, but I'm just in general, I'm talking because what is happening, I've seen students that are totally dependent. If I tell them to make some letter or something, I get second day letters generated by AI. So there I have some questions.
So if you're talking about yourself, there's a separate answer. If you're talking about students, there's a different answer.
Students.
Huh. So your worry is that your students will lose creativity.
Yes.
Okay. So ask them to write something where even if they use AI, they still have to use their creativity.
Okay.
So you give them a prompt saying ये prompt घर पे जाके AI में डालो, लेकिन मेरे को क्लास में अलग-अलग answers चाहिए.
Okay.
Which means what? Which means that they will have to first of all use AI. Let's say they use Gemini to create some option. Then they have to sit and tally their answers with each other. Push each other saying you can't write this because I've already written something like this. Okay, you have to come up with a new idea. You have to, so like I said, collaborate करो, figure out करो कि इसमें से कौन सा वाला मैं बोलूँगा, कौन सा वाला तू बोलेगा. Ultimately, you want people to be creative in what way? You want them to be creative in terms of solving their problems. Right? That's the largest skill you want students to have. Yes. Not that they should answer essays.
No.
So creative problem solving is, in India, sometimes it's called jugaad. Right? Which means what? Which means looking at a problem differently and coming up with a solution that otherwise would not have occurred. So instead of trying to stop people perhaps from using it, you would say, okay, go and use it and then show me something different on top of it. It took me 3.5 hours to make this presentation. 55 minutes to khatam kiya. And I'm telling you, I use AI, but it still took me 3.5 hours. Because I had to apply my mind about the people that I'm speaking to. Because the AI answer is a very standardized answer for the world's teachers.
Yeah, that's true.
So I have to customize that ready-made answer to the people that I'm talking to.
Yeah.
So that takes longer, but I don't want to start. I'll tell you why I don't want to start from scratch. I don't want to start from scratch because my scratch start is my bias. It's what I think of teachers. That's not a good thing. I want more perspective. I want more diversity in thinking because maybe I was genuinely lucky. I had a really good school. I had a really good set of teachers, but maybe somebody didn't have good teachers. So their starting point would be different. When you go to AI, it gives you a perspective which is not your own. I think that's a great thing to have. As a country, we will really benefit if we have more than one perspective for everything. And then you can choose whether you want to use it fully, halfway, modify it in some way, all of that.
Sir, Aditya sir.
So
what I understand from what you have been saying now is that basically AI is giving you a skeleton into which you are going to put in your ideas, reconstruct it the way you want it, but you know that you are going in a logical manner and you are getting what you want. That's what you're trying to say?
Think of it as a very capable assistant. It is a very capable assistant. बहुत दिमाग है. उसको आपका कॉन्टेक्स्ट पूरा नहीं पता, लेकिन उसका दिमाग चलता है. तो अब वो आपके ऊपर है कि आपके असिस्टेंट को कैसे यूज करते हो, कितना यूज करते हो, किस तरीके से यूज करते हो. That's what it is.
So what it is further to what Sadhna ma'am was saying. So basically, we are not losing our creativity. We are working on our creativity, but in a guided manner.
Ma'am, I don't think you can lose creativity. अगर आपकी creativity निकल जाती है तो आप creative नहीं हो.
नहीं, मैं वो नहीं बोल रही हूँ. मैं बोल रही हूँ further to what Sadhna ma'am was saying कि बच्चों की creativity.
That is the reason I reacted the way I did, because I don't think it's binary. It's not a zero and it's not an on and off. Yeah. I don't think creativity is on and off. जो शैतान बच्चे होते हैं वो भी बहुत क्रिएटिव होते हैं, अलग तरीके से क्रिएटिव होते हैं. बिल्कुल होते हैं पर अलग तरीके से होते हैं. So if you take a shaitan bachcha and you put him in my office as a grown-up, right? He stopped being a बच्चा long time ago. He stopped being शैतान long time ago. लेकिन उसका दिमाग अभी भी वैसे चलेगा. वो अभी भी मेरे को solution अलग वाले देगा.
Yeah. No, at
So,
times
and I, you know, why do you think so many Indians leave the country and go to the US and get H-1B visa and become CEOs there? Because during formative years, we need to be a lot more open about
Yes.
what is good for kids.
Yes, correct.
I understand that a lot of times you don't want मस्ती वाले बच्चे in the class because एक बच्चे की मस्ती की वजह से 50 लोग और मस्ती करेंगे. I get that. But our own ability to say ये भी अच्छा है, इसमें भी talent है.
Correct. Correct.
Right?
I totally agree with you, sir.
That's to me, and you know my son, so you know his classmates. A lot of his classmates in school who were laggards are doing very well in college because by heart nahi karna padta hai. They can express themselves differently. They can pick their subjects that they want. They can come and go to class as they want. That freedom is also giving them a sense of responsibility for themselves. It's helping them figure out what is important to them, and whatever is important to them, they're putting heart and soul into it. So there is so जो starting में हम do's and don'ts करते हैं, I would say keep those do's and don'ts at the midway point. So for example, I will never cut, copy, paste what is in a tool, what a tool is giving me. But I will definitely go to the tool, ask for references, actually read what the tool is telling me, and borrow from that to create my own. So instead of saying that मैं plagiarism नहीं करूँगा, I will say मैं inspiration लूँगा.
Correct.
उसके बाद अपना create करूँगा.
Hello.
Yes.
हाँ जी.
Hello.
हाँ मैम,
Yes.
बोलिए.
Yeah, you just said I would never cut copy paste.
Yes ma'am.
Yep, that will happen with you and me. But with the modern generation, it is only cut, copy, paste. With
Ma'am,
the
how
lower
old are you?
ones, they're just cutting, copying, pasting without being able to understand, comprehend what is there.
Ma'am, how
See
old are
that
you?
thing? It's very, very important that they know what they are cutting, copying, and pasting. It's not happening.
Ma'am,
You said be curious, very good. Help children be creative without being creative. Today's children are not their creativity is getting jammed because they can just pull out and throw at you. That should not happen with this AI. I love AI. I do a lot with AI. Okay. But you see, I've had a different life. I've come to the retirement stage and I'm thoroughly enjoying AI. But if I was a young person, like 10 years old, 11 years old, and I only got AI, I'm not worried about thinking for myself. I'm just cutting, copying, and pasting. I do not know how my creativity would have grown. That is the worrying thing. Otherwise, it's a beautiful thing. I just love it. But because I've had a different life and now I am enjoying AI. But as a kid, 10, 11, I will stop being creative. I will just take it from there and use it. That is the worrying factor because I see people around me, young people, they are driving, but they are not drivers. You see them on the road. They are driving. They're only stuck with that mobile phone. They are not worried about the next person. They're moving around like cartoons. I'm sorry I'm saying all this here. But it is a very worrying thing. Because today everybody is driving. But are they really driving? Are they really drivers? So that is the worrying thing when somebody talks about AI. I get frightened when it comes too early in life to kids. They need to go through a bit of the process that we went through to be creative. That is what I'm saying. Being creative without an easy tool. You see, we never got money easily. We worked hard to get money. Our children today are getting money easily. They are not ready to work. That is the worrying thing. I have to go through a process of difficulty to achieve something. That is the worrying thing here where AI is concerned. As much as I love it, okay? So I'm worried about this. So can you help me here?
Ma'am, if you're worried about something, I don't know what to do about your worry.
Huh.
I can give you some examples. There are 2-3 things actually that come to mind, and Deepa ma'am now knows that I'm very straightforward with what I want to say.
Yeah, please.
Um, um, I don't know how old you are, but
I'm
usually,
67.
okay. So usually, what happens with people is they think that the generation after them does not have the same uh, ethical backbone, hardworking backbone, all of that stuff, and the one before them is slightly more senile. So they are the perfect ones. Dunya stopped being good after them. I find that a little difficult to believe because the world has actually been progressing a lot more as we go along. So AI was not built by your generation or mine; it was built by people who are younger. So that's one. That gives me hope. Second is
Yes.
because of my work experience, I've worked in a lot of different countries, a lot of different cultures, a lot of different generations. Today, when I work with 20-year-olds, 20-year-olds are smarter than 30-year-olds.
Agreed.
When I work with, I actually run a program for teenagers and pre-teenagers. They are super keen to make a difference in a competitive environment. So because they know that they are working amongst 14 or 15 people of their own age, they seem to want to make a difference, and they will do anything and everything that they can do to make a difference, including shortcuts. The third thing I want to tell you is that I used to work. One of the markets that I worked in was the Middle East, and about 10-15 years ago, there was this big concern in the Middle East where all these rulers who were then in their 50s and 60s, they were saying, look, we came up the tough way because we actually learned how to, we lived in deserts, we went to the ocean, we had to dive for pearls without oxygen, etc., etc. Our next generation is useless. They all have 2 cell phones and 2 big cars. इनका कुछ नहीं होने वाला, right? But that was 15 years ago. And now that kuch nahi hoga wala generation is handling those countries and doing, frankly, a much better job than the previous generation that was doing. So I'm very hopeful that people who are being seen by others as zeros and ones are not actually 0 and 1. It can be a point of view that somebody can hold. I'm not so worried because ultimately, I think human beings' survival is massively inspirational to themselves, motivational to themselves. So if a student all through school life has done only cut paste and come out of 10 standard, in a year, that person, if he or she feels the pinch, will change ways. What I look for typically when I work with young people is what is their reason to move, not what is their way of moving. Because their way of moving might be catered to what I have told them, what I am forcing them to do. But I look at what is their reason to move. And that to me is actually like, you are worried, I'm hopeful.
Yeah, see, I'm not saying that everyone is like that. I'm definitely not saying that all are like that.
Ma'am, it's very nice of you to say now that everyone is not like that. It would have been really nice to.
What I thought at the beginning.
Hear me out. I can't even see you, so there's no. To me, the world is not zeros and ones. The world is not black and white, right? So every time you say, I'm worried about a generation, I know you're not talking about a generation. You're talking about some people in the generation, and that is obviously because of the kind of people you see day in and day out. And same for me. I see people in the professional domain. I see people in education. I see people outside. I force myself to go and meet and sort of have interactions with people who are in different decades of their lives. Deepa ma'am knows I spend a lot of time at Starbucks around Bombay,
Anyway,
where I try
we
to
just
meet
have to
people of
work
different
and see
way.
that it doesn't reach a point where
Aditya sir, Aditya sir, is it okay if I add a little to what you have said?
I put on the
Aditya sir?
video, but
India,
I have lost your
India is a
voice.
free country.
Aditya
Sorry,
sir,
there are 3 or 4. Sorry, there are 3 or 4 things that are overlapping.
is it okay if I add a little to what you have said?
मैम, मैं सिर्फ बात करने के लिए नहीं आया हूँ.
हाँ सुनिए सर. So
हाँ.
I mean in general मैं बोल रही हूँ किसी particular लोग को नहीं है. I am not talking to a particular person. In general I am saying if we look at the field of education, in education there was a time when people used to do only rote learning. Your questions, the papers, everything were based on rote learning. Gradually there was little bit of application. So that happens. And now if you're telling it is with us, the educators, that it is our role to really work it out. And very rightly you said, you tell the child, okay, use AI, but I don't want, sort of same answers, or I don't want, cut paste type of answers. So again, so in a way they are using their creativity there. No? They're using their ideas, they're using. So we need to have our way in such a manner when it is thrown open. Like, this is the situation. How will you react to this situation? So your opinion, your thinking on that. So I think, I don't think, sorry ma'am, I beg to differ, but I think we are not telling the children, lose your creativity but if you use AI. But I feel it is a way of, adding to your creativity and thinking differently. This is what I feel. And because I myself use at times AI, and I feel it really, for all I wouldn't think it in that manner, even if I gave it for whatever reason. Maybe time is a constraint or whatever it is. So maybe I wouldn't put in that much of thought to think in this manner. So I feel every aspect has its
So I
pros
think
and
the more
cons.
we,
So
sorry, I didn't say
let's look at the pros and try to minimize the cons.
So I would say,
Yep.
so two things I want to say, okay, because this is an audience which is right now here. Forget what happens to students. Okay, leave students aside for a minute. Forget what happens to students. All of you have cell phones. Download the Gemini app. Okay, download the Gemini app, and every day spend 1 hour on Gemini. Just yourself for whatever you want. You can do it for cooking recipes. You can do it to learn science. You can use it for generating ideas. Whatever you want. For the next 30 days, try using the Gemini app for 1 hour every day for things that you do. If you benefit, continue it. Talk to other people about it. If you don't, stop using it. It's something to try out.
Yes, sir. Hello. Yes, sir.
Haji. Sorry, I was also reading
मुझे
some.
कुछ आवाज नहीं आई इसलिए मैंने hello
No,
किया.
I was reading a comment.
Okay.
I was reading a comment. So yeah, so to me, like I gave you examples of 5 tools, right? So
Yes, yes,
5
sir.
tools plus Google. If you can spend an hour every day for the next 30 days, and then post Diwali holidays, take a call whether you think it is good, bad, ugly, whether it is useful to you but not to anybody else. बाकी तो आप किसी को रोक नहीं पाओगे. आप सिर्फ
Correct, correct.
खुद यूज कर सकते हो, खुद को रोक सकते हो. So if it works for you, hope and pray that it works for other people. But make sure that you use it much more than what you do now. Because very frankly, it is just English, right? It is like talking to somebody. There have been very few times in my life when Google has not returned a result, whatever I search for, right? There is always some Google result that comes, right? Similarly, when you ask something to an AI bot, you will always get an answer. It might be stupid sometimes, but you'll always get an answer. So it's worth trying, because at least where I basically want every single advantage I can get. right? So
Yes, sir.
if someone or something can make my life easier, I will definitely take that, because I know how to build on top of that and create something valuable for myself. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I will always want to have more time in my hands. So to me,
Yes.
AI tools do that really well right now. Maybe next year they'll start to do a lot more, and we can have another conversation. But at least for the next
Yeah.
30 days, I would say, use करके देखो. आप खुद use करके देखो. अगर आपको लगता है कि काम की चीज है, तो
Yes,
CRDE can organize another session.
Yes, yes, sir. And finally, I would just like to say today's session was meant the AI for educators, how you're going to make your life easy so that you have more time to yourself and your planning becomes easier, your implementation of that becomes easier. The idea was that. And I'm sure all of us here must have really like that. We can use so many things and we are grown up, so we can judiciously use where we want and where we don't want. I think anybody else has any query? Anyone?
Thank you, Vrinda ma'am.
Anyone else? Otherwise, we can just wind up the session.
Yeah, I'm glad we finished in time.
Yes. Deborah ma'am, you have come to the end of the session. We are winding up. You have joined very, 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 very late. Okay, to you. Before Uma ma'am takes over, thank you, Aditya sir. Wonderful session. Loved every bit of it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Over to you, Uma ma'am.
Yes. Thank you, Deepa ma'am. Yes, Dr. Aditya Savi. It was really, I mean, for me, as my personal this thing, I would say, I've only heard of artificial intelligence. Really, today I came to know the different tools and 7 ways, to relevance while using. So these things I have learned today. So on my behalf and on behalf of CRDE, and you being a trustee for CRDE, from the bottom of my heart, I sincerely thank you, sir, for this evening session. I'm sure, as you said, for 30 days, I would definitely try. Because it's really something which is new for me. So I would definitely try. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you to all the educators and Winifred ma'am for your participation, and Sir Deepa ma'am, as usual, for your participation, active participation. Thank you so much to all the educators, Vijayam, Ambujam ma'am, Reshma Rao ma'am, and all the Little Angels teachers, and Sadhna ma'am, of course. Thank you so much for your wonderful cooperation.
Thank you, ma'am.
And last but not the least, thank you, Dr. Suresh Nair and Deepa Desai ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to host the webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. As usual, you have done a wonderful and excellent
Thank you.
job of what you're doing, coordinating very well, everything wonderfully done.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
and Aditya sir, there may be calls to you or there may be mails to you in between people if they are finding it somewhere they are held up or whatever it is. So you may receive mails or you may get calls from me. There are certain tools which I have never tried. So I'm going to try it and maybe I'll seek your guidance in doing it.
No problem, ma'am. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank
Thank you, everybody.